I never thought a quiet evening walk in my little corner of suburban Ohio could flip my whole world upside down like. One minute you're just minding your own business, breathing in that crisp fall air, and the next, you're tangled in something that feels straight out of a bad dream, fighting for what you believe is right. It all started when I, Emily Hayes, heard this gut-wrenching yell from across the street. Turns out it was little Tommy, this sweet kid from the rundown house on Elm Lane, getting cornered by Mr. Harlan Brooks, the big shot president of our neighborhood HOA, who was red-faced and screaming about some overdue dues and property lines that he'd redrawn to suit his fancy. Without even thinking, because sometimes your heart just takes over, I stepped right in between them, telling Harlan flat out, "Hey, back off, he's just a kid, and bullying a family over a fence dispute ain't gonna fly in this community." But oh man, that lit a fire in him, and before I knew it, his shove turned into a full-on shove that sent me sprawling, cracking my ribs on the curb while he snarled, "Mind your own damn yard, or you'll regret it." His eyes cold as steel, all because deep down, this wasn't just about rules, it was about power, him owning half the block through shady deals, and hating anyone who challenged his little kingdom. Lying there in the hospital bed later that night, the beeps of the machines mixing with the sharp sting of antiseptic, I couldn't shake the fear bubbling up inside me. I'm just a part-time florist in this sleepy town of Willow Creek, arranging bouquets by day. Tending to my grandma's garden in the evenings, nothing fancy, no big influence or deep pockets. Just someone who hates seeing folks get trampled, especially when it's over something as petty as HOA greed, where Harlan had been twisting bylaws to push out lower-income families like Tommy's, all to flip their lots for profit with his developer buddies. The cops took my statement, but their shrugs said it all. These HOA feuds get messy, ma'am. And guys like Brooks have lawyers who eat cases like this for breakfast. And sure enough, the threats started rolling in. Anonymous notes slipped under my door about dropping the assault charges or else, making my hands shake every time I tried to sip tea with Grandma, who whispered, "Emily, maybe it's not worth it. Honey, we've got enough troubles." Her arthritic fingers squeezing mine, but inside, I felt this quiet storm building, a mix of doubt and that stubborn spark that wouldn't let me back down, because if I did, who'd stand up for the next Tommy? Weeks dragged on like molasses, my bruises fading but the nightmares sticking around, reliving that shove, Harlan's smug grin as he walked away unscathed, and when the court date loomed, I felt tiny, like the whole system was rigged for folks with connections, the town buzzing with whispers. Some calling me a busybody stirring up trouble, others pitying me from afar, but nobody stepping up, until one day, this low rumble shook the windows, and I peeked out to see a pack of motorcycles pulling up, chrome glinting under the sun, leather vests patched with storm breakers. A biker crew I'd only heard tall tales about, rough around the edges, but with their own code. At first, I froze. What the heck are these guys doing here? But then their leader, a grizzled fella named Duke with a salt and pepper beard and eyes that had seen too many miles, hopped off his bike, tipped his helmet, and said real casual like, "Heard about your scrap with that HOA tyrant. Emily name's Duke, and we don't take kindly to bullies hiding behind rules." His voice gravelly but warm, like an old uncle sharing a beer story, and it hit me that my tale had spread through the grapevine. Maybe from a mechanic buddy who knew Tommy's dad. These bikers rolling in not for glory, but because they lived by loyalty, having faced their own run-ins with power-hungry types who judged them on looks alone. I invited a few inside, hesitant at first, Grandma eyeing them like they might track mud on her rug, but they sat gentle, boots off, listening as I poured out the whole mess, my voice cracking on the parts where Harlan's threats felt too real, and Duke just nodded, no interruptions, then leaned in with a half-smile. "You put yourself on the line for that kid makes you one of us, in a way." And just like that, this unexpected brotherhood formed, them promising to show up at court, not with fists but presence, turning my solo fight into something bigger, though inside I wondered if it was too good to be true, if these outcasts could really tip the scales against Harlan's slick machine. Court day hit like a freight train, the old brick building in downtown Willow Creek feeling like a fortress closing in, me clutching my walking stick, knees wobbling as Harlan strutted in with his pinstripe suit and shark lawyers. Flashing that oily smile my way, whispering loud enough for me to hear, "Should have stayed in your flower beds, Lady, this ends today. His words dripping with sarcasm, all rooted in that deep-seated grudge because I'd called out his land grabs publicly at a town meeting once, exposing how he'd manipulated votes to hike fees and evict folks, turning personal when Tommy's family resisted. The judge banged the gavel, and it kicked off brutal, the defense attorney grilling me like I was the criminal, sneering. You inserted yourself into a private dispute, didn't you, Ms. Hayes? Reckless, attention-seeking behavior, his tone mocking, trying to paint me as unstable, and I felt my chest tighten, words sticking in my throat, until those courtroom doors creaked open and in walked the storm breakers, boots thudding in unison, filling the benches like a wall of thunder, Duke giving me a subtle nod that said, "We got you." And suddenly Harlan's smirk cracked, his eyes darting back, muttering under his breath, "What the hell is this circus?" as the room buzzed the power, shifting in that electric moment. I took a breath, found my voice, and fired back on the stand. "No, sir. I stepped in because a grown man terrorizing a child over greed isn't a dispute, it's wrong. Plain and simple." My words gaining strength, the biker's silent stares boring into the defense like lasers, and when Tommy testified, his small voice quivering but clear, pointing at Harlan with, "He scared me bad, but she saved us from losing our home." It landed like a punch, Harlan shifting uncomfortably, his facade crumbling as the judge's brow furrowed deeper. But it wasn't smooth. The threats ramped up, one night a shadow lurking by my porch hissing, "Drop it or your grandma's garden gets torched." Pure intimidation from Harlan's cronies, tying back to his fear of losing control over the neighborhood empire he'd built on backroom deals and favoritism. My heart raced, fear clawing at me, but then engines roared to life, headlights piercing the dark as Duke and the crew rolled up, scattering the creep like a rat. Duke crouching down afterward with a wry grin. "Ain't nobody messing with our flower girl on our watch." Lightening the terror with that touch of humor, making me chuckle through tears, realizing these so-called outlaws were the real guardians, born from their own histories of being marginalized, fighting systems that labeled them threats. Back in court, the climax built fierce, Harlan's lawyer hammering away, but I stood tall, clutching a worn keychain Duke had slipped May a tiny thunderbolt charm, and stared Harlan down, saying sharp and steady, "You can buy lawyers and twist rules, but you can't erase the truth you shoved me because I exposed your game, and now the whole town's seeing it." His face twisting in rage, blurting out, "You're nothing but a meddler ruining good business." Before his team hushed him, the courtroom, erupting in gasps, the judge slamming the gavel, chaos peaking as evidence of his HOA manipulations piled up, from forged documents to witness bribes, all unraveling his empire. When the jury filed back in, the air thick as fog, my pulse thumping like a drum, the foreman cleared his throat and declared, "Guilty on all counts," and Harlan's roar of fury echoed as cuffs clicked on, him glaring daggers at me while being dragged out, yelling, "This ain't over, you'll pay for this." But in that triumphant flash, like a movie scene where the underdog flips the script, I exhaled, tears mixing with relief, the storm breakers rising as one, their applause silent but thunderous, Duke tipping his hat with a proud smirk. Outside, under the gray Ohio sky, reporters swarmed, but the bikers formed a protective ring, Duke barking, "Give her space, folks earned it." And Tommy's mom rushed up, hugging me tight, whispering, "You gave us our home back," the kid beaming up, and in that heartfelt rap, I felt whole again, scars and all. Life settled after him back at the flower shop, arranging blooms with a new edge, the town shifting from whispers to nods of respect, the storm breakers checking in now and then, Duke dropping by with coffee and stories that made me laugh, reminding me strength's not solo, it's shared. But here's the thing that sticks with me, and maybe it'll get you thinking too, was it right for outsiders like the bikers to step in? Or does that just stir more division in tight-knit spots like ours? And what about HOA power plays fair game or flat-out bullying? Drop a comment below, share your take on justice in your neighborhood, hit that like if this hit home, subscribe for more real-life twists, and let's chat because stories like this, they make us question what community's really about.